wisdom is to not make decisions when you're overly low and not make decisions when you're too excited or overly high. You've got to find that. And it seems like that's why most of our students are being successful, is they're finding that spot in the middle to remove those emotions from the equation.
And that's why we have guys like James and the three of us and Janelle, like, to help traders understand that, because it's a difficult thing to understand when you're in the hot seat, in the pilot seat. But it's super simple for somebody looking from the outside, especially an experienced person. Like, we look at James, right? For James to look on the outside and be like, that was a dumb trade, right? Here's why. Boom, 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 boom. What emotions were you thinking or feeling? You know, because I've heard James kind of, we'll say, reprimand people for saying something like, oh, but I thought, and he's like, why are you thinking? Why would you think? The indicators tell you when to enter and when to exit. There's no thinking involved, right? So it's just interesting. Or if somebody, heaven forbid, says, I felt that. Oh, no.
Get your feelings out of here.
Yep.
So what are the secrets? How do some of the most successful entrepreneurs find the freedom that we all got into business for in the first place? How did they find the time, energy, and resources to launch and scale strong? And how do entrepreneurs like us align our time, money, and energy in a way that will allow us to reach what we set out to achieve? These are the key questions, and this community will give you the answers. Welcome to the Prosperity Movement.
Welcome to the Prosperity Podcast, Prosperity U Podcast. This is a place where the core team of the Prosperity Movement, we like to meet up and we like to chat about certain topics, things that are very, very helpful for people like you and even ourselves as reminders for certain principles and concepts that are required in order to have the success you're looking for. Today is going to be a bit of a juicy topic. The topic is something that Brian was sending out in emails this week. And I think it was kind of a variety of different topics. So here's what I want to do. I want to kind of, I can summarize it, I think, in a simple way. So essentially what Brian, what you were talking about this week, it all had to do with the person that's finding opportunities, right? And of course, you kind of lightly touched on the opportunity itself that Prosperity Movement provides. This is that whole ABC opportunity, ABC person. And a lot of what you were saying is how you can be that A person.
There, but also in the fire, also in the mess. Okay.
Right.
Because like I initiated the dreaded D word, man. I initiated the numbers and like what a lot of people don't know about Prosperity Movement is what's the heart behind what we're doing. You know, what is the genuine heart behind what we're doing? Like, and it all comes back high level for me. And I didn't talk about it in our emails, but I came from a broken family. Okay. Generational stuff that led to me experiencing things as a kid. And then just having this overall overarching experiencing being a part of another organization, touring all over North America, uplifting and empowering youth using music as the vehicle. Travis got to learn more about that when I got to hang out with him in Idaho this past week. We bonded like big time. I wish you were there, Zach. It was really awesome. And James, it would have been awesome.
Your story, and then it took a couple of days of me sitting down with you, like, holy crap, like that it's inspiring, man. Like, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, but genuinely, like being able to use music as a vehicle to uplift and empower youth, to basically turn their tragedy into triumph. Like we were handed in things like suicide notes and razor blades as a sign of making changes by these kids like self-mutilation. Like I can't tell you how many hundreds of arms I signed my name and said, this is my last mark over top of scars. Right. Like, and kids literally saying, you know, you changed my life and I'm going to turn things around. But I really believe, like, even like, again, we're men of God, we're men of faith here. Like the Godhead is God, mom and dad, and then children. Okay. Inspiration. We should be gathering inspiration from our children. Okay. But inspiration is supposed to come from above and trickle down. Okay. We want to create that safety for our kids. And the reality is that we're living in a world right now where the stats are what they are. And Zach's a data-driven dude. He's going to be able to tell you that we've got a 50% divorce rate right now. What most people don't know is that entrepreneurs, it's 75%. That means out of every 4 couple that there's entrepreneurs in the mix, boom, you got 75%, 3 out of 4 couples that are getting divorced. It's not working. And there's some elements surrounding that. So again, what are some of the biggest challenges that people are having that's leading to this? And right now, because of all the problems in the world, people are fighting mostly about money and communication and unmet expectations that are going uncommunicated, right? And all of these things are what actually affect, like, so one of the most important decisions you're ever going to make is the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with, because that sets the pace for your production. It sets the pace for your production. Genuinely, if you don't have that support and you don't have these things, like it genuinely can make or break. And so we got to be wise in our decision-making process. Nobody teaches us that in school. How do you properly, like, yeah, you look good. That should be enough, right? No, there are layers to getting to know, like, and so we just genuinely, a prosperity movement, when we look at the 4 pillars of prosperity, when we look at time, our value of time, when we look at our health, when we look at our relationships and finances, like, these are all tools to help you filter through who you're spending your time with. Is it good for your health? Relationally, is it, do you know what I mean? And then finances can follow, right? And I was really vulnerable with it. And there were some things where if I go back and look at those emails again, I think I would probably rewrite a few things. I'm processing through some stuff myself. But my point in through all of this, by the time you got to the end of those emails, one of the things that you should see, and I did have a misstep in there somewhere. Because I think I said, my crew will tell you I did my absolute best. So do you remember that part, Zach, where I said, my crew will tell you I did my absolute best?
Yeah.
Something I realized recently is, if I'm taking extreme ownership, the answer is no. And somewhere deep down inside, when I started to, and I'll talk about it now, pray, and prayed for something very different than I've ever prayed for. And I don't know, I'm sure everybody on this call has prayed at some way, shape, in some way, shape, or form at some point. But I prayed for God's lenses. And this transfers into your trading. Okay. Why does this transfer into your trading? And I think that James would agree with me on this. And it might not be in through a point of prayer, but it is a point of perspective, because you don't want to be going through your perspective of hurt, hang up, emotion, feelings. We got to pull hurt, hang up, emotions, and feelings out of the equation in order to be successful at pushing the button. Pushing the proper button at the proper times. And that even goes relationally. Okay, so when I asked God for his eyes and his perspective instead of mine, I started to realize, holy shit, this whole time, while I'm sitting here and seeing through the eyes and lenses of hurt and hang up and pointing like, I don't know if anybody's ever had that feeling before, where they'll look at a person, they'll be like, you're so selfish. And you're like, why are you so horrible? When you put on the lenses of God and you see them for who they are through the lens of Jesus, through the lens of God, you can't see anything else. So now you start to see the fruit of the Spirit. Now you start to see the good in the person instead of all the flaws. The funny thing is that most people are projecting. They're reflecting rejection of themselves, because all they see is the shit in the other person. But if that's all that you see, what are you creating for yourself in that whole scenario? And so again, we're talking relationally. I did go into that stuff, but the whole point is these are all principles that we need to think of, not just from a person standpoint, but circumstances. If all you see is the shit in the circumstance, all you see is the problem, all you're going to continue to have is problem after problem after problem. But now we talk about being solutionaries. What is the solution? Seek first to understand, then be understood. Seek first on the charts. What do I need to see without the lens of lack, right? All those things to be able to make wise decisions. It just
Exactly.
it goes across the board, and
Yeah.
that's, I think, overall the message that I would want to properly convey after going back and filtering through. I mean, I had a week before to write these emails, and I think everybody and any author, copywriter or author will tell you, I wrote that book 2 years ago. If I could go back and rewrite it, I would. We're going to redo another edition, right?
Right.
But that's how I'd want to close on that for a high level of the whole
Yeah.
thing.
It sounds like you're saying two main points. The first one is the concept of seeing the dust in someone else's eyes without noticing the plank in your own, right? And having this radical self-awareness, which is also, extreme ownership before you go into the markets, right? Because we're talking about trading in general is another topic outside of the main that you were just talking about. And the idea is that if you can't be self-aware of your own current circumstances, your emotions that you're probably taking and then perceiving things differently with, then it causes problems. And of course, the other one that it sounds like is also an element of just wisdom in general. That you were, how did you phrase this? What I heard when you were talking about is basically having wisdom, and then wisdom is basically having a self-understanding of true perspective, right? Don't hide from it, but actually go address it and take extreme ownership towards this path. And if we look back on all of the guys and gals that we get the most excited about that are being successful with learning our trading strategies and such, right? Almost all of them, if not all, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of them have talked about an element of that journey being a realization that they're bringing some crap to the table, right? And some self-improvements and such that they had to work on. Like, it wasn't just, I learned how to push a button, or I learned how to understand a chart. It was, I also learned myself, right? Go ahead, James. What you got?
Yeah.
I'd put it as, I've spoken to some this week, and what I find is there's a big victim mentality, and it's kind of like Brian said there, just in a different way. You feel it's them picking on me, it's their fault, it's their fault, it's their fault. But it's the victim mentality. It's this always happens to me, that always happens to me. There's a particular Loom video I'm reminded of where someone sent me a trade on a euro dollar, and I think you shared it in the past. And it was, I think, the turning point where that individual realized, oh, wait, I'm not a victim, because he started the video by saying, look, see, that's what always happens to me. I've placed a trade and now it's turning back. And it turned a little bit and then it carried on. And it went all the way to his 100 pip target. And and you could hear the change in his voice in the Loom recording. It went from victim to process. I just followed the process without feeling. We need to eliminate that emotion when we trade. I don't have an emotion when I trade. A friend of mine called me a psychopath some time ago on it because I don't. Well, I'm not. It's just it's just a job. I'm just here to do a job. I'm here to push a button and take their money. They're there to take mine. Well, you're not having it, and that's the way it is. But there's no emotion from me in that. And if I did get one wrong, okay, chalk it up to experience and crack on. Still there to do a job. We need to eliminate the victim mentality. And the minute we can do that, and I think if you watch this, you'll know who I'm addressing, because there's one person I'm thinking of particularly that has that victim mentality. He's got to get past it. It'll be all right then.
Have you seen those videos of... Go ahead, Brian.
No, you.
Have you seen? I don't know why this popped in my head with you talking right now, James. But have you guys seen those videos of people handling like these swarms of bees in other people's like garages or trash cans or something, and they're just casually picking them up? Okay, yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I panic when I see a few bees. One is okay, I'll kind of shoo it away and stuff, but they're just picking them up barehanded, nothing. And I mean, I think we've all heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but if like you start panicking and you get that fear, you release like these pheromones that the bees are like, I want to get you then, right? And particularly if you start like maybe moving too fast and scaring the hive, then they're going to attack you. It's like there's no emotions in that job. You just got to go do it and you're going to be okay. And I think that's kind of the same thing over here as well. Is like you don't need to have the emotions. Like take those out, because then you'll be okay. If you have the emotions, that's when things happen poorly.
All we need to know is the difference between a bee and a wasp. I've shown my little girl. We saw a bee on the pavement, and I said, "Look, just coax it onto my finger, and I coaxed it up onto my hand. And I said, now we'll take it somewhere like a flower or something in the garden and we'll put him down. What if he stings you? What if he stings you? He's got no reason to sting me. If he stings me, he dies. It'll be painful, but then he'll die. He doesn't want to die. He just wants to be somewhere safe. I don't want to step on him, so we'll move him to a flower. If it was a wasp, I'd have squashed all over that thing because, they're little bollocks that's going to sting you. But with me, that's different. They've no interest in stinging you.
We can't live without bees. We can't live without bees. Those things are they're the foundation of everything. That pollen, everything that they do. We can't. If the bees go extinct, we're all dead.
Yeah, I'm trying to teach her what to not be cruel to. It's funny because she's terrified of spiders. And wouldn't you know, I was taking her to school in my car the other day, and we opened my door, and right there on, there's a footwell with the name of the car. Right there, there's this whopper of a spider. It's like it was a good big one. And she left away. I said, relax, don't slam the door now, you're late. And I scooped it off onto my palm. We let him go. Spiders do no harm. Leave him alone. I don't know how he got there, but okay. Oh. He's not staying there. But
I am the spider.
She would get in the car then after that. I had to drive her to school on my knee.
Spiders fear me. I see a spider, I kill it immediately.
I know ways with them. They don't really mean on.
Kill things out of fear? Well, hey, that's just the way to go about it. Next time you're afraid
you got us way off topic again. I'm sorry, guys.
Dang it, Travis.
No, I wanted to actually dive into like what James was saying about victim and victor here, where like that's such an important thing for people to be able to do. There's three types of people. You've got a victim, you've got a survivor, and you have a victor. And we all play those roles at some point in time in our lives, and we still do it. Like all of us do. But again, remember, solution focus is understanding that you do need to identify the problem. You're not supposed to live in the problem, but finding a solution helps you get to victory faster. Or identifying the problem and finding a solution helps you get to victory faster. And so ultimately, you've got to identify, what role am I playing? You can change that narrative anytime you want. It is a click of a switch. And so now, James, you've gotten to a point where you are in a constant victor mentality, whether it's in front of the charts or really any other aspect of anywhere else in life. Like, where did that character
have you met my wife?
Come? Have you met? She's the one who sharpened you and helped you get to that?
I'd have to say, I come off.
You're a survivor over there, are you?
I'm a survivor there. Yeah. I know my place. I do as I'm told.
Okay, so some areas of your life you're victor, and some areas you're victim.
That's it.
So she's the spider. She's the Black Widow.
Charts, I've no problem.
Really quick thing. Sorry.
You can wear many hats.
My grandparents are in town, and their campers power cord you hook up to the car. I guess it popped off somehow, or they didn't connect it, and it just got shredded on the road. And so I learned how to replace those things by trial and error, and got the whole thing fixed up. But to do that, I had to go to Lowe's to get tools. I'm not allowed to go to Lowe's by myself because I only needed like a couple wrenches, and almost $500 later, I get back home and it's like, Grammy, just don't tell my wife. And guess the first thing that came out of her mouth.
Yeah, look what he's got.
I survived though on this call, so we're okay.
I'm like that when I go to a gun shop. I go to a gun shop and I have to say to the guy, see that there? Just take that out, put it in the bag. Because she's sitting out in the car. And so the reason she's sitting out in the car is because I've sworn to them that the truth is, look, Stacey can't go in the gun shop. You've got to be 18 to go in here. They believed it. They let me away with it. So I get to go in there. I'm just going in for the box of bullets. And I come out with this big red bag. Oh, yeah, I got a target as well. And then stash it in the boot. Just stay there. Yeah, I'll put it in the boot of my own. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And I actually have, what I think is a decent analogy for kind of some of what we're talking about, because we're basically talking about ways that you yourself can look at your challenges and even some of your pursuits like trading in the most effective way possible, right? In a way that doesn't harm you or others involved, right? So I was thinking about this analogy the other day. If you didn't know, I'm a little bit of a fan of Tesla. And so I was kind of thinking about this whole concept of there are different opportunities that we'll call a vehicle. There are different kinds of vehicles out there. And then there's different drivers, right? And if there are some good drivers, let's say Travis is a good driver. And then there's some not so great drivers. We'll say me is not a great driver. so but what's interesting is when you have different combinations of the vehicle and the driver. Let's say you want to get from point A to point B. Okay. And obviously this is a metaphor. So point B is the success you're looking for. And there's a lot of different routes to get to point B. And you can get there in different kinds of vehicles, and you can get there with different kinds of driving styles. Some of those styles are going to get you there faster. Some you'll get in a car wreck, which will delay yourself getting there in a timely manner, right? Like there's so many different combos. And so there's two things to consider here. Number one, how can you have the most effective vehicle possible? Even one that can maybe help to overcome some of your own flaws. So if you put Travis into any vehicle, pretty much, as long as it doesn't break down on the way, but any decent vehicle, he's going to get to point B at a decent time.
Okay? I have the tools now to fix the car, though.
There we go. But you put me in a regular vehicle, there's a chance for a car accident, right? But if you put me into a Tesla that drives itself, well, now the vehicle is actually overcoming a part of my own flaws. So like the vehicle is really, really important. So if we now uncover what this crazy analogy is all about, the vehicle is prosperity movement, and it is a Tesla, or it's like a combo between Tesla and Ferrari. Okay, it's like the most awesome Tesla in the world, and it will drive automatically and will never mess up. Okay, and that's a process. The vehicle is simply a process. What James was saying, like you just follow the process, and you'd be surprised how quickly you get there. Stop putting in your own lead foot because you're not getting there fast enough. No. Trust the process. It will get you there in the most effective way possible so you don't crash on the way.
Well, yeah, there's also the rules. There's a process, and then there's rules, kind of like there's a speed limit on the road, right?
Right.
If it's a 70-mile-an-hour speed limit, you're not supposed to go 120. That's illegal, right? Like very illegal. I think it's a felony. But yeah, so you have your process, you have your vehicle, you have the pilot or the driver, right? And then you also have the other rules around that get you to where you're trying to get to. And it's really that simple. I think that's what James used to talk about all the time, actually, was how it is just, I mean, when you get in a car, you don't second guess your knowledge of how to drive it. It comes second nature to this point, to a point so much that it actually gets kind of a little bit more dangerous if you're not trying to pay attention. Sometimes you kind of forget. I mean, have you ever like drove somewhere and then got to your destination like, oh my God, how did I get here? Like you just go into autopilot mode and stuff. So we got to be careful of that in this analogy for trading, is that we don't go into autopilot. We're continuously purposeful and intentional with it.
You're either going to be the driver or you're going to be the vehicle and get driven.
Right.
Right? Or you'll be the guy holding the tool, or you'll be the tool. Which one do you want? You know?
And you don't want to, so like to Brian's point at the beginning, right? Like you don't want to be the driver that's driving emotionally, right? You want to be the driver that has a healthy lens on. We could even say a godly lens. Okay, I think that's really, really actually important in order to maximize your route from point A, which is where you're at, to point B, which is where you want to be, right? I think it's all very, very
and relevant. To be fair, like on that topic though, too, like we all fall short.
Sure.
Like I have to be intentional to ask for those lenses. I have to be intentional to and that's a constant practice. Like I can very easily fall out of that. No different than you can fall out of your process with trading, right? Like it's when there are a lot of different types of people out there. Like of the four of us on here, I'm the most emotional individual on this call, right? And there's pros and cons to that. That's a gift. That my level of empathy is next level for most people, because I can sense it when I walk in the room. I can sense anything when I walk in the room. I can tell. You don't even have to say a word. I can tell. I can feel it. I can see it. I can sense it. That's part of high functioning autism. Like that's that's again, you got a blessing and a challenge, right? And so there are people on this call that they've got gifts, they've got talents, they've got things that they're optimal in, but the reality is we all fall short in some way. We're all flawed, we all have. And so you've got to work through that no matter what you're dealing with, whether it's communication with people, communication from the charts, like all that kind of stuff. And you've got to tap in and be intentional with seeking that level of focus. And sometimes we don't have it in our own power. And that's why I believe in the power of prayer, because you can tap into something that's much stronger and way more powerful than you. And to me, the one who created me is way more powerful than me. So at the end of the day, being able to hone in on that into something that's higher than my own understanding is what I'm looking to achieve.
And I think too,
as much as possible, right?
Yeah. So. And what that's also going to do is it's going to help you with clarity, because we all have decisions to make, whether it's to enter a trade or even maybe some career choices, or maybe even finding the one you're going to live with the rest of your life. These are all decisions that are really, really important to have ultimate clarity on, like as much clarity as humanly possible. And I think praying about it, and getting rid of the hurts and hangups when making that decision, I think is really, really important. I remember just a quick example of that actually. And it's funny enough, Brian and I were just kind of talking about it a little bit earlier today. My first ad agency, my first marketing agency that I ran, I had two partners. It was not Brian and Travis. This was a long time ago. And there came a point in time that business was not being run very well. In fact, I was doing a whole lot of work, actually pretty much all of the work. And so there came a point in time where it was really affecting my health, because it was just so much. Like I'm saying 80 to 90 hours a week putting into these campaigns and projects and stuff, and still feeling behind. It's just a horrible model, the way we designed it. And there came a point in time where I'm like, I need help making a choice here. Right. And I had just met Brian. I just met him. I loved the way he was operating as a person and for the business. And I was like, man, that's what I want. But like, I have this thing built out that's currently literally paying for all my bills. Like, this is my only source of income. Am I really going to throw all that away? Is that worth it? Blah, blah, blah. So what I did is I hired a business consultant, and I met with this guy for an hour, and I told him everything that's going down. I'm like, okay, I've got this agency. It's killing me. Just my mental health is bad. My physical health is bad. It's affecting my relationships in a very, very negative way. So like my kids and my wife, and I'm like, and then I got this guy named Brian over here, and this is the way that he's doing things. And I'm like, that's super attractive. Very pretty dog. Hello.
She's watching you. She watches telly.
And I'm like that. I don't mean to interrupt you, but just so we're painting a proper picture here for people, because you're being, what's the word? You're being modest. Oh, I was paying my bills and stuff. He took a company from zero to just scraping 7 figures in 14 months.
Yeah.
It
was good. It was a good business.
I told him he was crazy. You shouldn't. You should wait until we match or something. I don't know.
But this random business consultant, which by the way, I did not know this guy at all. This is the first time I get on the phone with this guy. I hired him through like, I don't know, some company that has consultation services, right? So his name was Kyle. Kyle listens to everything. And he says, well, to me, it sounds like literally all your problems are stemming from this marketing agency. And I'm like, yeah, they are. But like my partners over there, I consider them my friends, right? Like I don't want to mess up the friendship. And the guy's like, okay, well, now it sounds like you're choosing your friendship over your family relationships. And I was like, oh, actually, he is totally right.
He's pulling you through the 4 pillars of prosperity that you'd already lived.
He did, man. And I was like, okay. And this is one of those moments where he helped me give me this clarity. He got rid of the hurt and hangups that I was dealing with. And he's like, dude, it is crystal clear. And I ripped the Band-Aid off, man. The very next day, started the process of selling my shares in that company and partnered with Brian.
It sounds like you literally you went through a process that was obviously pretty emotional, but you implemented something that could help you remove the emotion by hiring the consultant and helping you make a decision that wasn't based on emotion.
Exactly. And isn't that, go ahead.
That's the what's the definition of wisdom? Like, I think that there's two sides to this, where wisdom is, from my understanding, it's not wise to make decisions when you're in a negative state, and it's not wise to make decisions when you're overly and too positive. Like if you're too, like way too happy or excited, that you shouldn't be making. And we see that even in trading, right? Like we see guys getting super cocky because they're getting hit with that dopamine, and they're like, that's so good, I'm gonna keep going. What just happened? Right? Like, and then the other side, I'm getting pissed. I'm gonna keep going. It's like on either side of that, you're losing. It's not wise, right? And so, like, my understanding again of wisdom is to not make decisions when you're overly low, and not make decisions when you're too excited or overly high. You've got to find that, and it seems like that's why most of our students are being successful, is they're finding that spot in the middle to remove those emotions from the equation.
And that's why we have guys like James and the three of us and Janelle, like, to help traders understand that, because it's a difficult thing to understand when you're in the hot seat, in the pilot seat. But it's super simple for somebody looking from the outside, especially an experienced person. Like we look at James, right? For James to look on the outside and be like, that was a dumb trade, right? Here's why. Boom, 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 boom. What emotions were you thinking or feeling? You know, because I've heard James kind of, we'll say, reprimand people for saying something like, oh, but I thought, and he's like, why are you thinking? Why would you think? The indicators tell you when to enter and when to exit. There's no thinking involved, right? So it's just interesting. Or if somebody, heaven forbid, says, I felt that. Oh, no.
Get your feelings out of here.
Yep.
And it's interesting because, like, even for me, like, I did mention this in the emails, like, you know, where my habits moved to, because I got to trade every day. And I've got a pretty good, like, I've gotten very good. My skill sets are really good when it comes to being consistent. And my win ratio would be like 2 weeks at a time before I have a lesson day. But I've noticed now that, like, when I moved to all of a sudden not going every day and going every second day, and I notice again, James doesn't trade every single day. I think that helps as well, because it's like there's some processing that happens in between, and there's some, like, no urgency, because this methodical approach of going slower to go faster seems to really work. But now my lesson days, if you look at it, they're averaging once every 3 months, which I'm almost getting to as good as James, but in phase 1 instead of phase 2 in terms of my win ratio. But here's the thing, that because I'm going every second day, it's actually more like a month and a half, right? But point is I went from 2 weeks to a month and a half by just simply making a simple adjustment to help me remove my urgency, which caused emotion. And it was a small tweak, man, but it was a big impact.
Yeah.
Small tweak, but big impact. Like, how often do we see small tweaks that make massive impact in this community?
A lot. Quite a bit.
I have a question for you guys, for Zach and Brian. Who do you think is the better trader, Zach or Brian, and why James?
I haven't seen either of them trade or seen any of their feedback. Well, you're not asking why to me.
Oh, that was great. James is definitely the best trader.
Yeah, obviously. We're also taking two different approaches, though.
You're right.
Yeah.
Can I tell you the key? Will I tell you the key?
Sure.
I'm not embarrassed or ashamed to talk to myself. I expect to get the best advice from myself. And I keep telling everyone in these sessions, and they hear it in my sessions. Guy will vouch for this. I talk out loud about every bar that is going to make a difference to me. Otherwise, the subconscious in you will say, you don't take the money because you risk losing. So you think there's no divergence against me. There's a line there it's reaching to. I'll make a decision when it gets to that line. Or I've already decided that it's going to get to that line and then it'll reject. And Guy will vouch for that because he's on the sessions and he sees that. Talking to myself makes a massive difference. I know so many people who feel embarrassed about it. I don't give a rat's. So long as I don't find myself in an argument, I'm not going to worry.
Yeah. Yep.
I talk to myself when I trade for sure. Actually,
sometimes you need expert advice, don't you?
Yeah. Well, sometimes, like for me, I was actually just telling our community this yesterday. If I make a poor trading decision and I win, I make sure out loud I say that was not a smart idea and you got really lucky, right? Because otherwise it almost reinforces a bad behavior. So I have to like verbally remind myself that, hey, dude, relax, be more patient.
I can't get away with that one every single time.
Right.
This is exactly how people start going down a
strike one.
Yeah. This is exactly how people start going down that rabbit hole of crime. Okay, because people aren't born bad, and you get around the wrong group or the wrong mentality. That's what we're talking about, right? And you do something small that's maybe not legal. Okay, and you get away with it. And you're like, oh, well, that wasn't that bad. And then you do it again. Maybe it's worse the next time. Oh, you got away again. It's not that bad. And you do it over and over. This is study. This is extremely studied material. The more you get away with it, the more reinforced to do it again or do something worse, right? And so that's the same thing in the trading is that if, God forbid, that you do something stupid and it works in your favor, because then there's no lesson. And as Zach is pointing out, you're actually saying it out loud. Let this be a lesson, actually. You know what? That was really stupid. I got lucky. And you cannot be lucky in the markets for very long. Okay. It will always beat you in the butt. You've got to be intentional in the market, and it's not that hard. It's not that difficult.
It's the same thing with addiction. It's the same thing with addiction. Oh, just one more. 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 Yep. It's the exact same thing. And, what did they say? It takes 90 days to make or break a habit.
Yeah.
And I have conversations with people almost, at least every day, every second week right now, because Travis takes the conversations the other weeks. But like, I hear a lot, and we are attracting a lot of people that have been with other organizations. They got to come over here and break bad habits. Like we do attract some new people to trading. I was kind of talking with someone a little bit new today, but like for the most part, most of the people that are coming here are experienced in some way, shape, or form, experienced other education, or tried learning off YouTube or something.
Yeah.
And I
was talking to a guy the other day. He said, we have a chat with him next week. He said he's been trading for 7 or 8 years. And I'm like, and how are things going? He goes, well, which is always a good start. Well, he's like, I'm basically break even. Like he's basically the amount of money he's put in, he's made that amount of money kind of thing over those years. And some years were more positive, some years were more negative, but in the end, he said he's about break even. And all of that has to do with habits. And Janelle and I, like, we talk quite often about our members, and what she's seeing and stuff like that, and what I've seen and noticed with the numbers. It's very interesting how someone without a trading background, typically, this is a generalization, but tends to do better in our programs than somebody who has a trading background. And it's because they're molded and they start with the right habits.
Better out of the gates.
Yeah.
We got to be on better out of the gates, because we have seen like guys like Nick Koenig come in not doing well elsewhere, comes through and completely it was the thing he needed.
That's why I said generally speaking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so generally, basically the rule of thumb is if you have bad habits, the sooner you can shed them, the faster you'll find yourself at the success you're looking for.
And what you're
The funny
talking
thing
about,
is that those bad habits are not always about trading,
Right.
at all. There's a lot of internal habits that we have, ways of thinking or thought processes in general that are bad habits that bleed and leach into your trading habits as well, right? Like it's not all about just, something you learned in a different platform or a different strategy. Sometimes there's just habits in another of your 4 pillars, right? I mean, help me out here, guys. Like,
or in your identity,
there...
or you're going down the exact
100%.
road where I was going with here, which how you're internally you're operating. So your operating system is in victim, in survivor, or victor. The guy you're describing right now, Zach, is not a victim. He's not a victor. He's sitting in the middle. Well, he's breaking even constantly. Survivors are always just making it through, right? Always just squeezing by.
It's like the middle class.
Just making it. Totally, right? Just squeezing through. I'm not victim to the point where like everything is in shambles, but it is a constant mess. And I'm just like getting over the line constantly, right? So it's like, perfect. And then somehow Ed Milet talks about this a lot, which is your I believe he talked about your temperature or your what do you call those things that set the temperature in your house?
Thermostat.
Your thermostat. So you have an internal thermostat. And so a lot of people don't realize they do this, but they will self-destruct to get them back to their thermostat. So their success expectation for themselves is sitting right here. And so then what ends up happening is that and this is the law of proximity. They're hanging out with certain people with this and blah, 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 this and that. And so they'll start pushing through this way, but something internally is telling them, oh, you can't. So, oh crap, I got a speeding ticket. I got this, I got that happened. This thing happened, this thing. And all of a sudden I was here and that, right? We're back to my thermostat, which is why power of proximity is everything, because now it's going to rub off when you get into a room that the expectation is at this temperature. Now your temperature from here has to rise. It has to. It's the law of osmosis. It has to rise, which is why prosperity movement is so powerful and why it's important for you to put yourself in a pool with a higher thermostat level. 92% success rate, baby. Woo!
And while we're picky on who is allowed to come in, people think that just because they can afford, to spend a little bit of money with us, that they just get in. It's like, no, we want to make sure that you're going to align with the mission, vision, and values that we have, that you're going to align with the idea of actually, coming through with intentionality to do something purposefully with us, not just to try it out, put your toes in the waters, but to come in and actually swim with us, right? And love them or hate them. The infamous Andrew Tate has a great way of expressing this, okay? And he goes, if you sit in a barbershop every week and you get your hair cut, and it's a barbershop full of just people who make ice cream, okay, like ice cream vendors, okay? You do this for an entire year, and every week you go get your hair cut, you hear them talk about how to perfect the recipe, how to distribute the ice cream, how to freeze it better, how to get more people in your ice cream store, all of that. And you have nothing to do with ice cream, but you're just listening in. You think that by the end of that year, you're going to know how to make a freaking bomb business that does really good in ice cream? Probably. And by, like Brian is saying, by the law of osmosis, for an example, just being around other people who are also fully committed to the idea of, I want to make my life better in general. And one of the vehicles that I'm going to use for my financial pillar is going to be through trading, because as long as I'm following a very simple process and system of rules, it's going to work. And I just have to work on myself to make sure I don't get in my way. And you have a whole group of people like that at different points in that journey. Some are really, really high. I mean, currently right now, there are multiple 7 and 8 figure earners, right? That you want to be around those. Now,
there are guys a few in this community following James's plays on calls. James is starting with a $50 lot size. These guys are putting in $200 lot sizes. They trust him that much. We have students that are making more than the educators based on just trusting the educators and having enough gall and balls, for lack of a better term, to put in a higher lot size.
Well,
I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Keep going, but that's like an important piece of the equation here.
Yeah. I'm in my geriatric phase now. I've traded the 1 and the 200s, and I still scale in but I'm lazy these days. I don't need it anymore. But I'm very, very happy that others are doing it because it's there to be done. Take it while it's on the table. You don't put out a wheelie bin when it's raining gold. You hire a skip and you put the skip out to collect the gold, don't you?
Yeah. So good.
So there's people that are following James. There's people who have learned and then don't show up to anything, and they're very happy with their stuff. They're doing it by themselves at this point. And there's also a group of people that are staying here, and they're just like, you know what? I love the community enough that I want to keep coming. I want to keep inspiring the next wave of people to come through. And then, of course, there's that wave of people that are starting out, or maybe somewhere there in the middle. And there's someone who's absolutely brand new, doesn't even know what a candle is, right? Like there's so many different levels of people in the program. But as Brian was saying, you think that you can't sit down with us a few days out of the week for a year and not have like the most radical shift in your perspective possible. It's impossible, right? Like just show up. Okay, just show up. It's going to do something for you. We equate this oftentimes going to the gym because it's basically the same thing. Going to just the idea of going to the gym and committing to it is probably the hardest part. Okay. But you're going to slowly build up your condition and get better and better. And if you have other people around you that are like, hey, come to the gym with me, let's get back into shape and stuff, right? Like, that's going to inspire you to keep going. The accountability, right? Self-accountability. Let's face it. Human beings are fickle. And they think that motivation is going to do something for them. And I really don't like the word motivation, because the only thing that motivation is just a discipline that comes through and inspires you in a moment, right? It's like my discipline, my habits that I formed. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to go to the gym right now, but I'm at least going to go, and maybe I'll get on the treadmill for a while. But then you show up to the gym, you're like, you know what? I'm gonna do this, right? Like there's this building of habits.
Consistency doesn't need motivation. Consistency does not need motivation. Consistency means even when I'm not motivated, I do it.
Absolutely.
That's good discipline.
And so I think a lot of people are really worried about starting because they have these thoughts in the back of their head about, am I going to be disciplined? Okay. Am I going to be consistent with this and stuff? It's like, well, the cool thing is actually your entire group of people that you're surrounding yourself with hold you accountable to those things, right? And help inspire you along the ways. Again, just like going to the gym, I love that when Brian was here, he pushed me to go all the time, right? Like every day. And my wife, bless her heart, is the one that has to drag me to the gym instead of the other way around. And so I love that those people are pulling me with them, right? And that's the quality of the person that we want in our program, that when we sit down and talk to them and see if they're a good fit, when we say yes, it's because they're going to also pull other people with them. And the cycle continues to constantly do this. And that's why it's called prosperity movement. Okay. It's not prosperity stagnation. It's a common, it doesn't stop. It's just movement all the time.
Love it. Love it.
So good.
Brian, do you want to share a link here with the folks?
Yeah, let's do that here. What is it? This is a team link. I believe it is.
I can do the
Prosperity link. Team. I think the link here. Sorry, I'm going to put that in the chat. And basically, sorry, I got distracted there. I got a call coming up. But hey, listen, if you're listening to this podcast or you're here with us live and you haven't gone through the due diligence process yet, you haven't, gotten the blueprint, this is a very, very key component. The blueprint, the trading blueprint, I believe, is through Trade Ed. Is that correct? Our sister company there, Travis?
Yes.
So the whole point of the blueprint is to help you with your due diligence and then also to help prepare you. And we've actually seen a massive shift in the numbers in regards to how quickly people are going to live and becoming profitable based on going through this blueprint. So it prepares you and gets you set up for success on the other side of this with us, and it helps you move at a faster pace. We've got a 92% success rate. You're going to learn more about that through the blueprint. And so if you haven't gotten it yet, it is normally $47, a $470 value roughly. You can click on go.prosperitymovement.online/prosperity team, or just type that in, go.prosperitymovement.online/prosperity team. Book a time with our team. You're going to get the blueprint as a prerequisite to talk with us and to, basically dot the I's and cross the T's. So just go through that, book a time with our team, make sure you go through the blueprint, and we look forward to going over your unique trading plan for where you're at and getting you moving and grooving to back engineer your goals and dreams. So that's it from me, I suppose, for today.
That's perfect. Thank you guys. As always, it's been a pleasure chatting with you guys. Learned a lot. This is great. I hope you guys learned a lot too. Click that link, follow the instructions, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. Bye.